But we figured the best way to do this with all of our viewers is to just sort of start with what's at stake this week. And so let's run through these standings really quickly just to see where teams are at in this final match week, because when you're looking through each of the games, there's something at stake in all of them. So for the NWSL standings in the final week of the season, they are as follows. It is Portland Thorns in first place with 38 points. You've got OL Reign at number 2 with 37 points. Kansas City Current in third place with 36 points. And San Diego Wave FC with 35 points. The top 4 teams here at the moment have all clinched a spot in the 2022 postseason. And up for grab are 2 playoff spots this weekend. It's number 5 right now, Houston Dash with 33 points. And North Carolina Courage made the leap into the upper half of the table with 31 points in that final 6th place playoff spot. Now, in the outside, in the lower half of the table, just looking into that playoff scenario, is Chicago Red Stars at number 7 with 30 points, and Angel City FC with 29 points. And officially eliminated from contention 9 through 12 is Orlando Pride, Racing Louisville, Washington Spirit, and New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. So we're definitely like something that we didn't do, Lisa, which I'm gonna toss your way. We wanted to make sure that we ran through these standings and get the most current standings up to date for everyone joining us live. But I would have loved to have grabbed some of our off-season content to tie into this, because I know that we were talking about we did our way too early predictions back in December of 2021. What could NWSL kind of shake out, and how teams would look and where they would look. And I wouldn't say that we were completely wrong. I think if I recall correctly, I know we had Kansas City as a top 5 team for sure, and they're going to be going to the playoffs as either the, one of the top 4 seeds. We'll find out by the end of this weekend. But just to look at these standings going into these finals, what kind of stands out for you? Let's get a little reflective with it here.
So I am thrilled and shocked that
at the same time
San Diego has clinched as early as they have. Kansas City as well. I'm not surprised by either of them in terms of as the season unfolded and how these teams were playing. But when we look back to kind of where these teams were and where we placed them, we had Kansas City at 5 to start this season, San Diego at 10. We weren't expecting a lot from our expansion sides. We ranked Angel City at number 9, San Diego at 10, and for valid reasons, we didn't expect a lot from them. And as the season started going and we realized that these teams were developed, these 2 expansion sides were developed with the idea of winning and establishing a culture of success from the onset based on the veterans that they gathered, the talented rookies, the defensive structure that these teams have, and the style of play that they know that they're playing in the NWSL. And I've been so pleasantly surprised with these expansion sides. Now, one of the craziest things that we are heading into the final weekend of regular season action. And yes, 4 teams have clinched. 4 teams are out of the playoff race, but no one has their spot yet.
Yep.
We don't have a out and out NWSL Shield winner. We don't have teams that are going to finish top 1 and 2. We actually have no idea what's going to happen. Now, you and I, we might have some really intelligent speculations coming at your way, but that's, I think, that one of the craziest things, because in the past, it's been a team kind of not runs away with it at the end. It's always been a tight playoff race, but it's a tight playoff race usually between 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6, not 1 and 2. Usually it does not come down to that. And the fact is that a number of teams could clinch first or second place at the end of this weekend.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's an important thing to know. Knowing this year was going to be different automatically because of the double expansion. There were 2 teams entering the fold. That not necessarily levels out competition across a league, but it definitely sets the scenario for some potentially very interesting things to happen in the season. And I would say that the expansion of the league this year has contributed to this regular season kind of coming down to this final match day and how it's kind of shaking out. And I love that we've been able to witness all of that side by side on attacking third. I mean, the fact that there is still something like an NWSL Shield that's up for grabs right now, between realistically, we'll just say realistically, between 3 teams, but technically and mathematically across 4 teams, right? So those 4 teams that had already clinched their spot in the NWSL postseason still have a couple things at play. They have a chance to clinch a first or second seed, which would include a playoff bye to the NWSL semifinals, and a chance at the NWSL Shield. Now, when we ran through these standings, looking at the top 3, it's Portland Thorns, OL Reign, and Kansas City Current, each separated by 1 point. 38, 37, 36. But you've got San Diego Wave, who are, again, technically and mathematically in play for the Shield. They just need many things to happen. So in terms of tiebreaker scenarios coming into play for something like first or second place amongst the table, or for something like the NWSL Shield, tiebreakers is there's 7 or so between them. But the first main tiebreaker is goal differential across all regular season games. And right now, that's Portland Thorns leading the way with that. I think they're a plus 25 in terms of the goal differential at the moment. So we're looking at, maybe realistically, there's a potential for 3 teams to really make a run for the Shield. But San Diego is mathematically in that as well. But they would need a number of things to happen. They would need like both Portland Thorns and OL Reign to drop some points or lose, quite frankly, not get any more goals. And they would have to beat North Carolina by like 14 or 15 goals in order to actually get the Shield. So while I never like to say never when it comes to NWSL, it is an extreme scenario. Like, that's one of the more extreme scenarios, right? When we're talking about some of the things that are at stake this weekend. So I'm a little curious as to how things will shake out for something like the Shield. I think even with that very extreme scenario, I think you hit it on the head, Lisa, just watching these expansion sides compete the way they have competed this season, San Diego in particular, really staying in the conversation, really staying in the upper half of the table throughout the entirety of the regular season is incredibly impressive. And they should be very, very proud of themselves as a franchise. Even if this Shield is kind of like really out of arm's reach, the fact that they have the potential to close out their season as one of the top 4 seeds, I think is really, really huge. For me, this is like an ideal statement. I think that getting top 4 means something a little bit differently. In NWSL for a long time, it was just the top 4 teams that would go to the playoffs, and now they've expanded the playoff format. But I like that there's still a different meaning. They've added that extra meaning to being one of the top 4 teams. It means you're going to host a home playoff game. So, congratulations in order to them for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely huge. But going back to your reference of the Shield race and Portland Thorns being at the top of it and all of the goals that Portland has scored. I mean, they lead the league in shots. They lead the league in shots on target. They're tied with the most goals at 46, but that's a record for a Thorns club, scoring 46 goals in a year, and they still have one more match to play. So if they win against Gotham this weekend, Portland wins the Shield. They win outright. They get first place. If they don't, that's kind of where the dominoes all start to fall out. But of course, it's not Portland Gotham to start the weekend of the games. And we're going to get into all of those. But the way the games are laid out, that's also an interesting kind of breakdown of how this weekend can unfold and what are all the important parts to this weekend as it comes out. But if you're a team that's sitting on the outside looking in, if you're Chicago or Angel City, you can't focus on what's to come on Friday night. You've got to focus on your game, look to get the win. Even a team like Houston, like they need to win win out. Like they're and also
yeah, you can't leave anything to chance. Quite frankly, at this point.
Exactly. So like in terms of the situations, Portland clinches with a win at the Shield. OL Reign can get the Shield if they win and Portland draws or loses. OL Reign can also get a top 2 spot. Kansas City can clinch the Shield if they win and Portland loses and OL Reign either draws or loses. So those are like the most likely situations for San Diego, as you talked about. It's a bit out of stretch, but for teams like Houston Dash, Chicago Red Stars, Angel City, they're still looking to clinch and get a spot.
The 5 and 6 seed are the 2 actual playoff spots that are in play. So along with first and second place, the NWSL Shield, the other things that are still in play this weekend are 2 actual playoff spots. So number 5 and number 6. So the fact that there are 4 teams in contention for potentially 2 spots, I think is absolutely riveting for the final match weekend of NWSL. We ran through the standings, and Houston is currently in 5th place with 33 points, and North Carolina is currently in 6th place with 31 points. But just behind them in 7 and 8 is Chicago Red Stars and Angel City at 30 points and 29 points respectively. So you don't want to leave anything up to chance. I think if you're any of those 4 teams going into this weekend, the mentality is win the game in front of you, right? So, Houston is probably prepping for, going up against the Spirit. North Carolina is prepping for going up against San Diego. Chicago and Angel City are prepping up to go up against each other, in the hopes that, if they do their job and get their win, the other things around them will fall into place, and maybe they get one of those spots at either number 5 or number 6. So an incredibly exciting time entering this final match weekend of NWSL. We absolutely wanted to go ahead and paint the scenario of things that are in play this weekend before we got into making our picks. And one more thing that's actually kind of up for grabs, but this is more of like an individual award, and something that we've been keeping an eye on is the Golden Boot race, quite frankly. And Alex Morgan is still in the lead with that, with 15 goals, but there are other players still chasing that. And again, with 1 game left, anything can happen. We'll see.
I think the Golden Boot race is like, it's a little bit more interesting because Alex Morgan leads it, despite when you look at the numbers, it's more interesting based on the games that are scheduled this weekend. Alex Morgan leads the Golden Boot race with 15 goals. Debinha, 12 behind her. Sophia Smith, 12 goals. And then Diana Ordonez, 11. Mallory Pugh, 10. Those are the top 5. But with Alex Morgan sitting at 15 goals for San Diego Wave FC, who is facing North Carolina Courage on Friday night against Debinha and Diana Ordonez, 12 and 11 goals respectively. If Debinha scores another hat trick, she's coming off of a 3-goal game for North Carolina. If Debinha scores a hat trick, she will then be tied at 15 goals with Alex Morgan. But the first tiebreaker is assists. Debinha has 4, Morgan has 2. So Debinha would automatically win. However, Sandra, here's the biggest kicker of them all. A player has never scored back-to-back hat tricks in an NWSL match.
Sounds like a challenge.
It sounds like a challenge. And if anyone can do it, it's Debinha, 100%. So she needs a hat trick in this match. She wins the Golden Boot race. Perhaps North Carolina, 3 goals is enough. We'll get into all of those scenarios, but we had to touch on the Golden Boot race because the fact that the top 2 runners in the Golden Boot race are facing each other in the final weekend of the regular season. Like you can't write it better than this.
Absolutely. I'm so hyped. I'm so amped. Like, we kicked off this episode like it's kind of hard to believe that we're finally here at this moment, but I also feel like in the back of our heads it was something that we have been waiting for, and here we are. Hopefully this weekend doesn't disappoint. Team Chaos, it's what we always like to root for in terms of watching things unfold in front of us.